All right, how you doing, YouTube? This is Brogy Nark, back again with another review, talking about Bojack Horseman Season 5. Now, Bojack Horseman is my favorite show on Netflix. It's very funny, but it's like the humor is like a side piece to the deep drama that this show is. Now you might think, oh, it's a show about a horseman, about a horse person and all these animal people, but it is a very deep show. I would say it's one of the deepest shows to be ever created, and how it talks about just one guy dealing with his problems and dealing with almost like a midlife crisis, but how he also stays in his own way. And it's a very good show created by Raphael Bob Waksberg. I always tend to forget about this creator because usually on animated shows, you know the creator Seth MacFarlane and Matt Groening, but he's not really that big. I don't know if he's worked on any other major projects, but he does a phenomenal job with Bojack Horseman. Of course, Bojack Horseman played by Will Arnett, and he is amazing as this character and all the other characters in this show. Now, I will say, for the beginning, there will be some spoilers from the other seasons, because we're 5 seasons deep, and there's a lot that happened last season, and I will throw in throughout the non-spoiler part of this review. There will be spoilers later on in the review. But to start off, Bojack is now working on a new show called Filbert, which was named after Princess Carolyn, the baby that she, wanted to have but hasn't had yet. And it's a gritty crime drama, and Bojack Horseman is the lead character. And in this season, he's dealing with that. He's dealing with some of his actions from previous seasons are starting to be exposed, and how he's going to deal with that. And he also still deals with drug addiction, and he also gets a new girlfriend, which is a slight spoiler, but is his co-star on the show, Gina. And so that's like the main thing he's dealing with, and also certain family issues and stuff, the usual Bojack stuff. We also have Princess Carolyn, who is my favorite character on the show, played by Amy Sedaris. And, she's now a producer on the show. This is her first time producing, because she's been a talent agent and a manager, which are 2 different jobs if you ask her. But she's now dealing with this new job, being a producer on this show, Filbert. But she's also, instead of trying to have a new baby, she's actually going down the adoption route. And it's like her life is so chaotic, but she feels that if she can get a baby, that would make her life better. But as you know, babies are not easy to deal with. So her already having a hectic life and then trying to add a baby onto that, it could lead to some problems. And that's like her main thing. Like, that's the thing. Like, each season, all these characters, the main characters, are so strong. They all have their own individual things and how they interweave throughout the series. So Diane Nguyen, played by Alison Brie. She's, of course, her and Mr. Peanut Butter got divorced. Well, they were breaking up at the end of the last season, and this part is the early stages of their divorce. They've been separated for a couple months, and she's dealing with that while also trying to figure out what she wants to do. Well, she kind of wants to know what is her place in life, and she's still working at the website Girl Crush, and she's now trying to figure out what she should write about and all that. But now this season heavily focuses on the Me Too sexual harassment stuff in Hollywood, because each season always talks about the problems in Hollywood, but this season, and it usually focuses on different things, but this one really focuses mainly on the whole actor forgiveness thing, and how long, if an actor messes up, how long should it take before them to be forgiven. And even though an actor did something wrong and they shouldn't be forgiven, it only takes a couple of years before them to get back into the business. So it's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that focuses on that. And she goes to try to figure out her life, but she ends up in a roundabout way working on the show Filbert, and she becomes a writer, and that leads to some interesting things with some conflict that comes between her and Bojack. Got Mr. Peanut Butter, who's also dealing with the divorce, but of course he's rebounded and he's now dating someone new. and that relationship, throughout the season he starts to figure out exactly why all his marriages have failed, and it's like how he's like the main reason for that. And also he gets a new job, which I'll say for later. That's kind of a spoiler. Todd Chavez, Aaron Paul, dating Yolanda. They're dealing with their relationship, and that's doing okay, and that leads to some interesting things. And as always, Todd fails upward and gets, even though he's a slacker, he still managed to get these crazy jobs, and he ends up, in a roundabout way, he ends up becoming the president of ad sales for the company that's producing the Filbert show, which is called WhatTimeIsItNow.com, which is a website for people who don't know what time it is, even though their clocks and cell phones have clocks on them, but you're not supposed to know that. This website will tell you what time it is. So it's a very dumb business, but they are getting into the streaming services, and they have this new show, Filbert. And so that's like where all the main characters are. And then we get some new characters. Gina, who is Bojack's co-star, who is becomes the love interest this season, played by Stephanie Beatrice. She's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She's one of the cops on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She's a really good character in this. She plays the officer Sassy Malone, and she's a small-time actress, and this is one of her bigger roles, or this could potentially be one of her bigger roles. And so she's mainly just wants to work throughout the show, but Bojack actually likes her, and he tries his best to try to further her career without being jealous or vindictive, which is very rare for Bojack. We get Mr. Peanut Butter's new girlfriend, Pickles, played by Hung Chau, who is a waitress, and she's a pug, and she's adorable. She's kind of ditzy. She's another young woman, just like Mr. Peanut Butter always ends up dating, and she's a fun character, and she's worried about. She knows Miss Peanut Butter's been married like 3 different times, 3 different times, and she's kind of worried, like, is this relationship going to work or not? Mr. Peanut Butter is not sure if it's going to work or not either, but he's very into the relationship. And another reoccurring character, Flip, who's the writer of Filbert, creator of Filbert, played by Romney Malik. He's a good character. He's minor, very minor, but he's just an asshole and obsessed with his own genius, even though he's not really that smart, and maybe a little bit crazy. But man, this show, I would say this season was like, by the end of it, Bojack really hits a low point. Like, he's had a lot of low points throughout the shows, but I would say this was truly rock bottom. And it got really deep. Like, by the end of episode 4, that's when the show really started getting into the heavy drama aspects. And there's great episodes throughout. There's an episode where it's just it's all Will Arnett, and it's just a monologue about him talking about his mom. I won't say his parents and his childhood, that was the moment where I had to take a break, because I was like, that was so deep. But this is a strong show, very, very good. It's the same as it's as strong as the others. I would say it's probably the best season. Either this or season 3. They're very, very strong seasons. I mean, they're all good, but I would say this is probably the best one, because like I said, this is when Bojack hits his low point, and the other characters start to develop in interesting ways. Well, some of them kind of stay the same, and one keeps making the same mistake, but the other 3 main characters really starts to go in very different directions in their lives, which always happens in this show. They always progress the characters very well throughout this show. There's a lot. There's a very good amount of guest stars, and there's always guest stars throughout the show, but I think this season probably had the most various guest stars, like Whoopi Goldberg, Laura Linney, John Leguizamo, Eva Longoria, Brian Tyree Henry, Jamie Lee Presley, Wanda Sykes, and Issa Rae. Those are majority of them, but they're sprinkled throughout this show and play fun characters. But yeah, this is a great watch. This is a great watch. I mean, it's only 12 episodes, and each episode's about about 21, 22 minutes. And like I said, I love these characters, Princess Carolyn being my favorite. And there's an episode that focuses on, was it episode 5, that focuses on her, sort of like her, a little bit on her her childhood and her early teenage years, and like her first, well, I'll just leave it at that. It focuses on her and how she left from North Carolina and came to California, and get a little backstory into her family, which was a very lovely episode, which I thought was gonna be my favorite episode. But when I have to talk about favorite episodes, my favorite episode this season, and I would say the best episode of this season, episode 11, The Showstopper. And I'll get more into that in spoilers, but that was the episode where I was just like, damn, they really, Bojack has done some crazy shit, but this was not good. This was not good. Probably one of the worst things he's done. But, yeah, it was a deep episode. But like I said, this was a great season. Check it out. If you love the others, you're going to love this one. The acting is great. Animation is about the same. There's no real, like, I think, was that last season or season 3? I think it was season 3 was the underwater episode. There's no episode that's quite as experimental as that, but it's still solid. It's solid all around. But, yeah, check it out. Top notch. If I had to grade this season, I'd give it, I'd give it an A. I'll give it an A. I was debating whether it should be an A+, but I was like, I'd give it an A. It's a solid season of streaming television. Definitely check this one out. So after that, we're gonna now get into spoilers. All right, so I'm not gonna get into everything, but I'm gonna get into a few major things. Todd and Yolanda, that relationship doesn't last because it's kind of funny because Yolanda realizes Todd is a slacker, and like she's a little bit embarrassed about him, but he is a slacker, but he also is very productive because, as they point out, how he ends up becoming the head of ad sales at the website is because if you look at his resume, he's ran an amusement park, he's ran a lot of successful businesses, even though he is a slacker. So, and I'm glad they kind of broke up because her character's not that strong, Yolanda. Like, I like that voice actress, I like her character, but her character doesn't really fit with Todd. I don't really like those two together like that. And there was an episode with her family. They meet her family, and she's asexual, but her family is like in the sex industry, and that's where you get John Leguizamo and Eva Longoria, who play her parents. That was a fun episode. I would also say probably the weakest one out of the season, or at least my least favorite out of the season. Not a horrible episode, but it's not as good as some of the other ones. Yeah, so there's the episode where they really lean into the Me Too movement stuff, where there's an actor called Vance Wagner, who's basically sort of like an amalgam of all the horrible people in Hollywood as one. He's like a combination of, he's mainly Mel Gibson, but he's got a little bit of Alec Baldwin and Russell Crowe and other actors mixed in, who's continually getting into trouble and getting into fights and going on racist rants and yelling at their daughters and stuff like that. And like, so Bojack, he's going to be on Filbert, but there's a whole thing where it looks like Bojack was disagreeing with it, and of course he rose with it, and he tries to become this new feminist icon, because Bojack is like, well, feminism isn't bad, it's just, you need to, if you hear it from the voice of a man, people might actually listen. So stuff like that. It's very funny. Episode 6 is Bojack's mom dies, and he gives a monologue about his childhood and how his parents were terrible, specifically how his mom was bad. And he's also trying to figure out, before she dies, she says, "I see you," and he's trying to think of the philosophical reasons behind why she would say that, but then he eventually realized that there is no philosophical reason. She was just reading a sign. It's a very deep episode. Check that one out. But we have to talk about my favorite episode 11, The Showstopper, which was, by the end, insane. So, I forgot to mention, Hollyhock comes back. We're in spoilers now. Hollyhock comes back, and she's back for a little bit, and it was nice to see her. And so episode 11, early in the season, Bojack gets injured during a stunt, so he's on painkillers. When Hollyhock comes back, she accidentally throws his pills away. And that's when you find out that he's actually, which you would assume, but they actually finally say that he actually is addicted to these pills, and that starts messing with him. He has a trouble starting to figure out what's real and what's fake, mainly because he's on a show called Filbert, and the set is basically his apartment, which wasn't done on purpose. Like, the guy didn't realize that the set looked like his house, but the set looks like his house. On the show, Filbert is dating his cop partner, who Bojack is dating in real life. His actual is the same actress. And then, in a way, Diane is now working on the show, and she's pissed off at Bojack because he screws up her therapy sessions, and then he claims that they're the same person, but she finds out about what happened. She has an idea of what happened with him and the girl in New Mexico. So, as revenge, she starts influencing the show by switching up certain things that Bojack has done, but telling it in a different way. So it's now playing with Bojack. He's high on drugs, and he's having trouble differentiating between what's reality and what's within the show. So Bojack, he gets this letter that's saying they're going to expose what he's done. So now he's freaking out, like, oh, somebody's trying to expose me, and he's trying to figure out who it is in real life. Who it is? He thinks it could be Princess Carolyn. He thinks it could be Mr. Peanut Butter, like everybody, Peanut Butter, Diane, but Todd. He doesn't know who it is. And in the show, there's a mystery going on. But basically, there's this scene where Bojack he has this hallucination, and it's a musical, but Gina finds out that he's still on pills, because after Hollyhock got rid of his pills, and then she realizes Bojack's in a bad place, she leaves. Bojack deliberately gets himself into a car accident so he can get more pills, and then that's when he starts taking more pills, and he has all these pills stashed in this house. Gina finds them, they get into a argument, and she leaves. So they essentially break up. Now, back on set, they're filming, it's like 2 months later, the show is done well, they're now filming the new season, and there's a scene where Gina's character, Sassy, confronts Filbert about killing his wife, which is a whole plot line in the story about him killing his wife, but he said his partner did it, but it was actually him, and he makes this letter that was like a confession that, yes, he actually was the one who killed his wife and all these other people. But in the scene, Filbert attacks Sassy. So he's on set choking Gina in real life. So they stop filming, but then he's still choking her. And they're like, whoa, this is kind of like, he said stop, cut. You don't have to keep choking her. And then they realize, oh, wait, no, he's really choking her in real life. So they pull him off of her. Bojack was so high on drugs, he didn't realize he was choking the shit out of his co-star / girlfriend, and people recorded it, and then that gets out. So that was a deep moment when he, because you see Bojack is out of his mind, and he's literally almost killed someone on the set. And then that leads into the finale, where by the end of it, he ends up getting rehab. Gina doesn't want to expose him because she knows this is like the biggest thing she's done so far, and this could lead to other things, and she doesn't want this to derail her career, which is a very deep thing, because she says, you should be locked. If this was a Jess World, you would already be locked up. We wouldn't have to have this whole interview trying to make everything look nice. But that was a deep moment. And then the way things happen, Peanut Butter and Diane start hooking up again, but he tries to break up with Pickles, but she, starts to realize that he's going to break up with her, so he panics and proposes to her. She says yes, which, Mr. Peanut Butter doing his whole thing again. Diane, what happens with Diane? She ends up, she's the one that sends Bojack to rehab, and she explains why they're still friends, even though they've gone through so many arguments throughout this, and hatred throughout this season, which was a deep conversation. And Princess Carolyn, she actually gets a baby by the end of the season, which I thought was nice. It is just her, because there was a moment where it was gonna be her and her ex, but like that fell through, so she now has a baby on her own, and it's gonna be interesting to see how she's gonna be able to balance her life and the baby. But those are some of the main things that happen, and maybe this will be the point after rehab. Bojack can get his life together, because he's gone through so many things. Like someone points out, he should have gotten help after Sarah Lynn died. The fact that he didn't get help after Sarah Lynn died shows how far gone this guy really is. And I didn't even think of it that way, but it's like, yeah, you're right. That was the moment he should have gotten help, and he didn't. He just got worse and worse until this point where he almost killed someone in real life. Yeah, that was very deep. That's another solid season of TV. Check it out. It's not going to take long to get through this. Watch the other seasons. They're all good. But that's all I really have to say about this show. I loved it, loved it, loved it. But let me know what you thought about this season in the comments. And check out some other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and to subscribe to this channel if you already haven't. And I'll be back with more videos. Peace.